Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lilu Nishmas Yehosuha. So here we are again in Chicago. We'll be here for a little bit. We have with us Harav Reb Sidney Glenner. 15 years ago, when I was giving shir in the Adas, that was the first night here. He was there, I don't know for how long. Maybe a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. Here you are. Comes around, goes around. I want to show the Olam a video that was just sent to me a few hours ago by the famous Shlema Gertner. Does this have volume, by the way? Does this screen have volume?
They can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Let's
Can you unmute yourself?
unmute myself on Zoom.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do that. Where are we though on Zoom? Give Valdik. This one?
Yeah, press unmute.
How about now? Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Shalom Aleichem. Okay. Let's see if you hear this. Nice and loud, yeah? No. That's on me. Do you hear it on the screens?
We hear it.
Okay, I'll try to play it as loud as I can, and then we'll have to put it later on. Here we go. All right. Do you guys hear it here, or is it a little? All right, so here's a guy that was caught learning on the plane, sitting in it looks like economy over there. A nice economy. I was on a flight and I see someone learning with MDY charts. Amazing how far and wide this can go. Keep up the good work, Hatzlacha. And then, you have people that pose. But this, I know for a fact, is not a posed picture, the coming up picture. My own son took this picture. He chopped this guy learning on a flight. Here we go. All right. A real quick email here, one email. Dear Rabbi Stefansky, I know you don't usually get emails from women, but I have a problem. All I hear around my house and my community lately is Eli Stefansky, Rabbi Stefansky, the daf this, the daf that. Unbeknownst to you, you moved into Brookline, Massachusetts. It all started when you came to speak at my son's Yeshiva, Levat Torah in Bet Shemesh. My son, Liran Teib, was instantaneously inspired by your life story and decided to join the daf. He also loves good food, so the lavish siyumim was an added bonus. Since then, he told my husband about your daf, and almost our entire shul community has switched to learning with your daf, even though we are Sephardi. I don't know what that means, even though. I guess the havara is a little weird for them. So I wanted to thank you for being such an inspiration, especially to the younger generation. We're modern Orthodox, so it's important to us that our kids grow up with the notion that you can be successful in life and have a fulfilling spiritual life as well, and you are a daily example of that. Laran was so inspired by you that he tried to select where to serve in the army based on where he could fit in the daf to his daily schedule. That's very chashuv. He recently drafted as part of Lev Hesder program. So back to my problem. I'm feeling left out. All I hear at home in our shul is talking about your daf. Do you think I should join as well? P.S. If you're ever in Brookline, please let us know. And next time you're at Levat Torah, please say a special hello to Laran Teib. Sincerely, Sharona Teib, Paz Realty. Shkoyach, Sharona. We don't tell people what to do and how to learn and where to learn. But Be'ezer Hashem, the kollel, the MDY kollel is literally across the street from Levat Torah. So Be'ezer Hashem will pop in there. Rabbi Isai, here we are in Daf Lamed Hey. Today we have an easier daf. Sponsors, that's a very good call. Sponsors. Hold on. Can't do this without the sponsors. Here we go. The Parnas HaChodesh for the Kollel, we just spoke about, is anonymous in zechus of Hillel ben Sar, Dina, Rivka, Bas Fega, that should be zechus Zer Shel Kayoma. Paras HaChodesh, friends and family, Refuah Shlema for Yaakov, Yehuda ben Gittel. Paras HaChodesh, Bresler, Austein, Rosenberg, Schulman, and Tobias families. L'schus Refuah Shlema for Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Yisroel, Meir David, ben Yocheved, Druk Shlita. Paras HaChodesh for the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best gula. Paras HaChodesh. Chodesh Nisan, sponsored by Eli. The Nishmas Yehosuha Mattisyahu Finkel, Nishmas Avrohom Tikotzky, Bresler, Pinchas Alei Shalom, Nishmas Yehosuha ben Ahron Fraiman, Olav Shalom. Paras HaChodesh, Ahron Fraiman, l'schus parnos and siyad shmai and continue to stop the rebellion. Mr. and Mrs Avrohom Tikotzky. Oh, l'zeich Nishmas Yehosuha Mattisyahu Finkel's yard site is the 10th of Nisan. Rabbi Avrohom Tikotzky is the one who have a tremendous hakar satayv. The day we left the base marriage, we're doing so well. We built a base marriage, the MDY base marriage in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and we're there for brachas, and we made a big siyum, and Shabbos, Daf Yomi, everything closed down because of COVID, and it was a very, very depressing time. We had over 100 people per shiur, and it was going great. And then, of course, I'm by myself in my dining room like this, just me and a camera. And then I got this beautiful piece of art from Yonah Weinrib, right? What's the famous art? Yonah Weinrib. From this Rabbi Avrohom Tikotzky. So I always have akar satayv to Rabbi Tikotzky. All right, here we go. Lishna Achrina Amilo. So yesterday we had one lashon in Shmuel, and today we are 6 lines down on Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. Omar Shmuel Kulan Tzrichos Lahavdin Shleisha Chadashim. We're talking about all women after they divorce or they're widowed. They must wait 3 months to discern whose baby it is. Just in case they're pregnant, we have to make sure that we know it's from the first husband, from the second husband. Chutz Megiyores U'Meshuchreres G'dayla. So yesterday's lashon was Ktana. Now we're switching G'dayla. It makes a big nafkamina. Besides a convert, a Giyores and a Meshuchreres, a Shifcha who was let out, who's a G'dayla. Aval Ktana, so we could infer from this, we're going to die. The only one who doesn't have to check and wait 3 months. A Giyores, as soon as she's misgayer, she can be in the shidduch market immediately. She can get married within a few days. But you can infer, because you're saying G'dayla. You see that word G'dayla means that she's an adult. And we're not talking about Ktanas. And a Ktana also doesn't have to wait. Within the category of G'daylos, there's only 1 or 2 that don't have to wait, and that's a Giyores and a Meshuchreres. But when we're talking about a Ktana, she doesn't have to wait. And that's pretty meduik from our Mishnah, because we had a crazy situation in our Mishnah where the 2 men switched the 2 wives, the 2 brothers switched the 2 sisters, and if they're Ktanos, they don't have to wait. They can just go back to their original husbands, the ones they were meant to marry. B'mai. So what's Shmuel talking about? If this is a Ktana who told her husband she doesn't want to be married to him. So again, we're talking about a Yisayma who lost her father. And the Midrabanan, because Chachamim didn't want this girl just to be hefker, she doesn't have a father anymore, who's going to watch her? So the Misakin that the mother and the brother can marry her off. However, as soon as she doesn't want to be married to this guy, all she has to do is like what the Muslims do today, send a text message, they're divorced, finished, end of story. Don't want to be married to you. So that's not a chiddush. Why would Shmuel come and say, oh, by the way, I have a tremendous chiddush to tell you. You already spoke about mion. And if she didn't do mion, she received the get, and she's a ktana who her husband decided to divorce her. What a life. She's not even 12 years old. She was already married. She's already divorced. Shmuel says she has to wait 3 months. Easy Gemara. We're mamish. We're flying. Ella, and this is all word for word that we had yesterday, basically, but within a G'dayla. Ella biznus. So we're talking about a Ktana that was mizana, uznus, b'Ktana l'shchiach, and since it's not something that occurs regularly, so there's no need for Chachamim to make the kanas. Says the Gemara, Giyores umshuchreres, the shchiach buznus ligzar. But what about a Giyores? How come you're saying that a Giyores and Meshuchreres don't have to wait 3 months? Shouldn't they have to wait 3 months since it's known that they're Mizana? And so what if they're mizana? Why do they have to wait 3 months? To differentiate between zera kadosh and not kadosh, says Rashi. And as the Gemara is going to say also, Rashi got it from the Gemara. Says the Gemara, there's no need. My chavrusa yesterday, he was in the Beis Medrash, and whatever we recorded here didn't make it to Eretz Yisrael. It took time, took a few hours until they uploaded. What we were doing here, this OBS thing that I'm doing, and it's supposed to go directly to Israel as soon as Shir is over. And it's supposed to show it unedited in the Beis Medrash. Now it's like 4 o'clock in the morning there, so by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, and there's a whole group of guys, maybe as large as this group, that's come to watch. So he's giving the shir yesterday, and he told me that he had a nace, that as soon as he got to the sugya on Amud Beis over there, 12 kids got up and walked out of the Beis Medrash for no good reason. Because, we have a lot of kids, and the kids never move. They sit there and they watch the shir. But yesterday's sugya, for some reason, 12 of them got up and moved, but one kid stayed. So he started reading, and he says, all of a sudden, the kid's phone rang. He took the phone and went out of his service. He said he was so happy. His mom was relieved. Okay. It was a sugya, not for children, really. So, but then again, a lot of people say, Torah is Torah, children, not children, whatever. Okay, we're not going to go there. But he was relieved. Divrei Rebbe Yehuda. So over here we have this Rebbe Yehuda that says that even a shivcha, even a meshuchreres, and even a woman who was captured, a frum lady, in those days we even mentioned, why does a husband get the mezainas? Because it was so frequent that they would capture these women and ask for ransom, like in Mexico today, that it was expected from the husband to be paid to the wife, so therefore in return he gets the nichsim milog, whatever we discussed. So, says the Gemara, Rebbe Yosi matir li'arishon miyad. And Rebbe Yosi, this is our Rebbe Yosi, who says that they can get married right away. Now, because it's easier sugya, let's see Rashi inside. I think it's kedai to see this Rashi. It's very important. Rashi dibur maskul hu da Amar ki Rebbe Yosi. Hu da Amar ki Rebbe Yosi de loy gazar. Rebbe Yosi says you don't have to wait 3 months. The mefarish time of the isha mizana misapeches kadei shalei tesaber. As we're going to see in the sugya, the little trick that a woman does after bia in order not to become pregnant, she flips over. Umiu b'Yisrael is gazar shmuel znus atunusu and shimsaberes. Yes, a zayna could do that, but we were geyser zayna because it's similar to a woman who's married. So let's have the same gzeira by a goya, but leisaber ki Rebbe Yosi de legazer kedar lekama banus munfuta. We're not going to be geyser a zayna guy to a married guy. Why? Even the daitale geyure, says Rashi, since she's in the process of geirus, it takes time to become a geirus. It's a whole process. She's going and she's studying the whole thing, and she's married. Misapeches nami. She also does that trick. Says Rashi, typically we're going to make a gzeira between a zayna and a married woman because people can't differentiate. But when it comes to goya, there's nothing to differentiate. A zayna and a married woman, they both do the same trick. They both are misapach. They both don't want to become pregnant because they want to make sure that when they do become pregnant, they're pregnant, the zera is zera kadosh, that they're considered Jews at the time of their pregnancy. Says the Gemara, Omer Rabba, my time the Rebbe Yosi, Kosova Isha Mizano, Mishameshes B'moich, Kedei Shalei Tesaber. So there's another trick. She can use some sort of sponge to absorb the zera, and she won't become pregnant. That's if she's Mizana. Omer Abayo Bishlam Giyores, Kivin the Daita Ligiyure, Minatra Navsha. Now that's Abayo, very good. If a woman is aware of what's happening, so she has the ability to preempt it. She comes prepared with the sponge, whatever she comes prepared with. She has a reason to come prepared. Even a captured woman and a slave, they also come prepared. A slave hears She overhears her master says, next week I'm going to let you go. Okay, so for that week, 2 weeks, she's very careful. She makes sure she doesn't get pregnant. We know that if a woman gets punched in the eye, she loses her eye. Her master punches her in the face, in the mouth, she loses a tooth, she goes out. How in the world does she know that she's going out? Yesterday she was mizana. The next morning she gets knocked out, her tooth gets knocked out, and she goes free. How would she take preemptive measures to make sure that she's not pregnant? She didn't know she's going to get knocked in, her tooth is going to get knocked out. The Chit Heimel called the Mamela Mother Rabbi Yossi. Maybe he'll say, you're right. In a case where she goes out b'shen v'ayin, she does have to wait 3 months. The whole chiddush was that if she's prepared and she wants to be mavda b'zera l'kadosh and zera not kadosh, then she comes prepared. And if it's something that happened all of a sudden, she thought she's going to be a slave for 25 years. He bought her, he gave her good money for 25 years. All of a sudden, poof, her tooth got knocked out. So she goes free. You're right. In that case, we tell her, look, you go free, but you can't get married for 3 months. But that's not true. The Rabbi Yehuda. Here, Anusa. She didn't have time to prepare. She was violated without preparation. And you see, Rabbi Yossi holds, you can get married right away. So it's nothing to do with being prepared, not prepared. Another svara. What Rashi mentioned before. I don't know the exact hechetimsa, how it works. Is it a somersault? Is it? I have no idea. Standing up, whatever it is. The point is that the zera doesn't catch on properly, and memela, she doesn't become pregnant. Says Gemara. Okay. So now, new sugya. We learned in the Mishnah. Here, you can see it over here if you don't want to look in the Mishnah. V'imhayu kohanois nifslu minat truma. The erech the lashon. Pretty much. That what these ktanos that got switched at marriage, they got different husbands. Now they can't eat truma anymore. What does that mean? It's interesting lashon. Are they hustle to a kohen? Or they're mutter to kohen, you just can't eat truma? What exactly is it? Says the Gemara, kohanos in Yisroelis loy has nothing to do with what if she's a Yisroelis who married a kohen? She also shouldn't be able to eat truma. It says it's an interesting logic. If she was a kohen, she cannot eat truma. And if she's a Yisroel who married a kohen and she's eating truma while she's married, she also shouldn't be able to eat truma now. She's a psula. Ema imhayu nishei kohanim. Okay, you're right. What the Mishnah meant to say, and that it was obvious as you're reading it, all it means is if you married a kohen, it doesn't mean she is a kohen. She's a kohen now, so to speak, because she's married to a kohen. As the Gemara, that also doesn't fit well. Now what if she is a kohenes? Her father is a kohen, and she married a kohen. Now look at this pasuk. It says, "Ubas kohen kisil yishzar." He besrumas hakadashim lo yisoichel. You want to show it?
Yeah, I have it on the screen now.
Okay, cool. Got it. If she's a daughter of a kohen who marries a Yisroel, lo yisoichel. She can't eat truma anymore. What's the following pasuk? Pasuk Yud Gimel. Ubas kohen kisi almano grusha. That same woman who was married to Yisroel and she couldn't eat truma anymore. V'zera ein la, but she doesn't have children. That's a very important thing. V'zera ein la, no children. And you see, ayin la, that's a different sugya. That we have something similar today. Ayin la, you should look in to see. V'shav beis aviyah. She could go back to her father's house. Kinureh melechem aviyah toichel. She could eat truma. She returns to eating truma. So now that we see this pasuk, that bas kohen who marries a Yisroel and loses her husband or gets divorced, she could go back and eat truma. Ask the Gemara, what about if she's Nishei Yisraelim, she was married to Yisrael, and now her husband died. Loi? Vanerinu la'aynim emasnisin. Beautiful lashon. I was enlightened to see pshat from our Mishnah. Eishes Yisroel shenensa afal pishu mutaris labayla psula lekuhuna. What are you telling me? Even a kohenes who's married to Yisroel, if she was violated, or not violated, in this case, she was switched at the chuppah, she should never be able to eat truma for the rest of her life. If her husband dies and she goes back, she shouldn't be able to eat truma. So this is what we're saying. This is exactly. It could be I jumped ahead more than I needed to, but the point is that what the Mishnah is saying is this halacha right here: that if she went and she married a Yisroel, she doesn't retain that ability any longer to go back to her father's house and eat truma. I just wanted to show you this thing here. We saw it before, but it says in the Mishnah, and I just wanted to say, it should have said in the Mishnah, nifslu min hakuna. That would have been the proper lashon. And that's what we were looking for. So why does it say, im hayu kohanis nifslu min truma? It comes to say this halacha right here. That nifslu min truma, meaning that if she's the daughter of a kohen, and typically her husband dies, she's able to go back and eat truma. In this case, since she had this mistake and she married the wrong man, even though it's a shaygeg, she could never eat truma for the rest of her life, even if her husband dies. And with that, Rabbi Isai, Hadran aloch arba achin, Hadran aloch arba achin, Hadran aloch arba achin. So we just turned to the Daf Yomi Amud Beis, and of course we have a sponsor for that, Moshe Horn, in honor of Jolly Joe Kraus and family, and another sponsor in honor of Ed Kinsbursky, Brian Kinsbursky, and Ari Miller for learning the Daf. And the Mishnah, we have another sponsor. Because Mishnayos, we have sponsors, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim group, where we dive for Refuah Yishuah Shidduchim, for Klal Yisrael, and for our MDY family. Join us at tehillim.8mindaf.com. Some people ask, why do we have so many commercial breaks in this? I have to explain. For those who don't know, this year we probably spent over $1 million on different programs. We have the artist who did a lot of graphics for us, but that's a small part. We have a koilel, that's a nice chunk, and we gave out, I don't know, maybe 10,000 art scroll gemaras, which was a huge, huge expense. So there's a lot of, it's not just what you see over here, the equipment, and there's a lot of expenses. Believe it or not, there's a lot of expenses. So to explain briefly, some people go, oh, they don't know what it is. It's just a shir, Daf Yomi. Yeah, but there is a budget. So, and there's some new people here today, so I'm explaining. They're like, what is going on here? Every 10 minutes or every 5 seconds is another. Zag the Gemara. Now, I have a chalitza shoe. A guy made me a chalitza shoe. I'll talk about it when I show it. I left it, unfortunately, in Eretz Yisrael. It's a real replica of a chalitza shoe that costs $1,000. A guy who is in charge of all the merch, he made me the shoe. I'll talk about him and the shoe at a different time. But it's a beautiful shoe. It's mamish al pi halacha. It's made out of leather. It has all the stitching the right way and everything. I wanted to bring it. I left it in my house in Eretz Yisrael. I had somebody go in there today. They looked all over. They found it in my house. So it's there. It's not here. Okay. I'll go about it, but there's plenty of opportunities throughout the Masechta to talk about it and to show it and the whole thing and how you tie it. We're going to get into it. Now we're not getting into it. It just talks about chalitza, so it's okay. Again, when this woman, she becomes a Yevama. Her husband dies without children. She becomes a Yevama. Now, so a very interesting thing happened. We know that a person is married to a woman. that woman is usher to the brothers. She's a Eishes Ach. She's not allowed to marry the brothers. The only time she's allowed to marry the brothers if her husband died without children, you become Mrs Avrohom. But otherwise, she's a Eishes Ach. So if this woman has a child, she's not allowed to marry the brothers. Eishes Ach. If she's pregnant, what happens? He went ahead and he performed chalitza to a pregnant Yevama. She's most likely going to have a child soon. So how do we view it? If the child is viable, so there's an interesting halacha. Chalitza is like a get. And when you divorce a woman, you're not allowed to marry your sister. It's a chaysisha. So if you did chalitza to the woman, you're not allowed to marry your sister either. Or other krivim. But since she didn't require chalitza, and you did chalitza anyway, you did a joke. What you did is nothing. It's zero. A big fat zero. Perform chalitza to a woman that doesn't need chalitza. It's like performing chalitza to your own wife. It doesn't work. No, nothing to do with zika. No. Well, what are you asking? That what? She should be also on the krivim because of the zika? No, so they actually discuss over here that we're going to see in the sugya a little bit. The zika is not the issue here. The issue is that he performed a chalitza, and a chalitza midrabanan is like a get, and she should be also in the krivim midrabanan at least. But because it's nothing, she's mutter. In his krivim, he's mutter. He can marry her sister. I performed the chalitza to her, and it's as if he divorced her. It's not as if he divorced her because she's pregnant. He performed the chalitza. Somebody's not supposed to perform a chalitza. So therefore, who mutter b'krov yourself, he mutter b'krovav, v'lo psalam in akuhuna. If this was a real chalitza, then she's a grusha, and a grusha cannot marry a kohen. But she's not a grusha. She's not a chalutza. She's nothing. But if the baby never made it, who also b'krov yourself, so now the chalitza is a good chalitza. Who also b'krov yourself, he asur b'krov. Upsalam in akuhuna. It worked. Everything worked. Now, we're going to be very surprised when we're going to see the Gemara. HaKoines is ivimtoi, v'nimtz is mu'beres. Okay, instead of doing chalitza, he did actually yibam. It's a big problem, because now he was boil eishesach, his brother's wife. He should have waited 3 months. Had he waited 3 months, he would have noticed what's going on, and at the beginning of the Mishnah also should have waited 3 months. He would have seen whether she's available for Yibam, not available, but he didn't. He jumped the gun. So what's the halacha? Yaitzi, he must remove her, he must divorce her immediately. Why? Because he's living with Eishesach. V'chayavim b'karban, and the children are mamzerim. This is one of the harayas, Eishesach. And they have to bring a carbon. V'mein v'lad shekayama. And,
What does Yotze mean? Is it a get?
Yeah. Well, there's no chalitza now. He was miyabim.
Yeah, but you'd see it. But I know there was a get in this situation. It was never a real...
No. This is Yotze with the get. The get, because he was miyabim her. Once he miyabim, then the only way to get out is with the get.
Miyabim was possible.
So what? Either way. V'chayavim b'karban. V'mein v'lad shekayama. Yeah. If they have a kid. No, so Manav Shach. We'll see in a second. No, the kid, the kid that she's pregnant with is from the original. If they have future kids, I'm saying, this is Eishesach, this is a regular erva. You got to get rid of her. Now, V'im vlad shekayama yikayim. If find out that this kid died or whatever, yikayim. Because now you still have to be, the brother still needs Hakam Hashem, and you're allowed to marry her. Safek ben tishla rishon, safek ben shival achroin, yoitzi. What if he married her 2 months after the brother died, and now she's pregnant? We don't know if she's pregnant from the yavam or from the original brother. Yoitzi. You must take her, you must release her. V'avlad kosher. Why is the vlad kosher? Because let's think about it. If the baby is from the brother, so it's a kosher baby. If the baby's from the yavam, so it's a kosher baby. Either way you look at it, it's a kosher baby. Either she was supposed to be misiyabim and she got pregnant from the yavam, or she wasn't supposed to be misiyabim and she got pregnant from the original guy. But the baby has no problem. You have to get divorced, you have to get rid of her, but the baby Mimanav Shach is a great baby. Kosher in Lekula Alma. Either it's the original brothers and that's a great baby, or it's the Yavam's baby and it's also a good baby because he was supposed to be Miyavim. V'chayavim ba'asham tali, in this case, since it's a suffix, so they have to bring asham tali means a asham on a suffix. And now we have a beautiful machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Itmar. Hachayos lemuberes v'pila. What happens if he performs chalitza to a pregnant Yevama, and then after that, so Rabbi say, think about it, don't look in the Gemara, think about what would you say? Performed chalitza to a pregnant Yevama, and then she lost the pregnancy. Is the chalitza a good chalitza or not a good chalitza? What's the question? At the end of the day, we find out that she needed chalitza. She's a regular Yevama. But at the time that he performed the chalitza, he shouldn't have performed chalitza because she was pregnant. She's 5 months pregnant. No, what does the Olam say?
I have an answer.
Yeah, what's your answer?
He didn't know that it was
Very good.
pregnant,
Oh, so you're saying it's good. Very good. Okay. What does anybody else say? You're masking. Everybody's masking to you, old Bergman. Gewaldig. I'm also kind of masking to him. Sounds good. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, ein tzorach chalitza menachem. Either way you go, you're going to go like one of the Amoraim. Rabbi Yochanan, Shlokish. Gewaldig. Rabbi Yochanan says, ein tzorach chalitza menachem, chalitzas muber shma chalitza. It's considered a perfect chalitza. And the Gemara is going to explain why. Ubias muber shma bia. And the yibum that he performed is a good yibum. She requires chalitza. What does menachem mean? So the lashon is a little interesting because menachem means everybody else besides the guy that performed the chalitza. No? Ruvain gave chalitza. And it says she needs chalitza menachem from the other brothers. Taisus discusses it. He said one of the pshatim he says is it means from the brothers of the dead. The guy that died, all his brothers, including this guy, this troublemaker, that gave the chalitza when he shouldn't have. And again, so menachem means everybody could give chalitza. Even the guy that gave the original chalitza could give a second chalitza. Chalitzas muberes loishma chalitza. Since he performed chalitza when he shouldn't have, she was pregnant, and it's not a time to do chalitza or yibum. So what if in 3 months from now you found out that the baby was lost? Today, you shouldn't have done chalitza, so it's zero what you did. And it's not a good yibum. What's the source of the machlokes? Either it's a logical machlokes or they have a source in the Torah. What if you have Ruach HaKodesh and you know for 100% certain that she's going to lose this baby? You do an MRI, you do what is it called? The ultrasound, and you see that's it. It's over. In a week from now, it's not going to be there anymore. So the Torah is going to be mechayev you to do chalitza then. So do it now. The whole point of not doing chalitza is because she already has zera, einla, and she has zera. She has a baby, but you know there's not a baby. So just because you don't have Ruach HaKodesh, that doesn't mean that what you did today is nothing. Mila bas chalitza v'yibami, if Eliyah Rabbi tells you that this is what's going to happen, he's not passing a psak for you. It's not a halacha. He's telling you a fact. He's telling you that she's going to lose this pregnancy. Hashanami, tiklim milsim lafreya. So too, let's go retroactive and see that what you did was a good chalitza and a good yibam. And it doesn't work like that. Today, your maisa wasn't supposed to happen. If you ask a Rav, the Rav will tell you, don't be miyabim, don't do chalitza. So if you went in and did it, then it's a big zero. tomorrow she lost her pregnancy, so tomorrow you'll do chalitza. But you cannot do chalitza when you're not allowed to do chalitza. And if you do it, it doesn't add up to anything. Okay, or perhaps the machlokes is in the pasuk. That it says in the pasuk, ubein ein loy. When do you do yibum? When there's no son. V'ha leslei. At the end of the day, he doesn't have a son. So there was a performance of a chalitza and a performance of yibum, and it's a good yibum, it's a good chalitza. So we had this lashon earlier in the Masechta, and over there Rashi explains ein loy, because there's an extra yud. The Torah could have said ein without a yud. Where do we have it? And Rashi gave a few examples, and one of them was me'ein yivami. The word me'ein yivami is mem aleph nun, without a yud, and it's the same lashon of ein. So you see, you don't need a yud. So because there's a yud, ayin olav. Look deep into it, and this pregnancy is enough to consider it a son. And Rebbe says no. A pregnancy is not a son. A son is a son. If there's a birth of a son and he's a viable son, then that's a son. Pregnancy is not enough to push off a chalitza. And now Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are going to try to bring rayas to their shita from our Mishnah mostly for now. It says in the Mishnah, "Ein avlat shekayama hu asa b'kroivasel v'asur b'kroivav." Rabbi says, look in the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah we just learned that if the pregnancy is not viable, then hu asa b'kroivasel v'asur b'kroivav. What happened? He did a chalitza, and it turns out that it was a good chalitza. Why? Because later on she lost her pregnancy. So we actually take his chalitza seriously, and we consider it as if he gave her chalitza, and she's usher in his kroivim, and he's usher to marry her sister, for instance. What do you see? That the chalitza worked. When did he perform the chalitza? When she was pregnant. So you see from the Mishnah that even if you perform a chalitza during a pregnancy, when you shouldn't perform the chalitza, it's a good chalitza, enough to make you usher in her kroivim. Upsalam and akuna, you made her puzzle akuna. If you say it's a good chalitza, therefore I made her puzzle. But according to you, that performing chalitza while a woman is pregnant, it's a big fat zero. How could a zero make somebody puzzle l'kuhuna? You're right. It's a zero. But midrabanan, I only decided that you're puzzled to recrive him midrabanan. Rashi says over here, Dilma asile mishre chalutza lekuhuna. Rashi says, what's the rabbanon? Why did I make this chumrah? It's a gzeira. That if people see that you're allowing this chalutza scot-free, they're going to say, a chalutza is allowed to marry a kayan. They don't know that this case, they remember that a woman went to Bezdin and she got chalitza. The next week, she goes and she marries a kayan. So everybody's going to say, a chalutza is allowed to marry a kayan. They don't realize that she was pregnant. And the chalitza was a zero, and that's why she married the kayan. So we made a gzeira. Okay. Ikidarmi, and some say very interesting. The same kasha, the same words, but it's Rish Lakish using it against Rabbi Yochanan. Until now, Rabbi Yochanan used it against Rish Lakish. No, the opposite. How do you do that? Eisvei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Ein avlat shekayama, the same words in the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah that if a person performed chalitza on a pregnant Yevama, and then she lost the child, who was a Kroivav, it works to a point. Upsalam and akuna. Says Rish Lakish, listen to this. This is a kasha on you, Rabbi Yochanan. Why? I hold this as zero. It makes sense that the Mishnah says she becomes pasul l'kuna, meaning l'chumra. This is a chumra. It's not talking about the halacha of what we're really looking for. Does she require chalitza? Not require chalitza? It just says she's pasul kuna. Pasul kuna could mean that we're machmer on her. Why are we discussing pasakuna, not pasakuna? We should be discussing what does this Yevama require. You perform the chalitza, you have to do it again, or you don't have to do it again. That's the main point there. Was the chalitza a good chalitza? Do you have to perform the chalitza once again after she loses her baby or not? Why are you telling me, oh, she's possibly going to... I'll tell you why, because of course she has to perform another chalitza. I'm just telling you there's another chiddush in the Mishnah that we're machmer on her and she can't marry a kite. Amalei, to that Rabbi Yochanan says, Enochanami. Vaidi Tana Reisha loy pasla. Tana Seifa pasla. So, let's see. Is this it? So in a case that there's a baby and the chalitza doesn't work, so you can't say tzar chalitza. So look at this right over here. This is the first case. Yeah, a person. This is in the Mishnah. A person performs chalitza to Yevama and she gives birth. Could it say she needs chalitza? He performed chalitza to the Yevama and she gave birth. It's not appropriate to say she needs chalitza, doesn't need chalitza. What you need to say is, mutter b'kreva said. The only thing you could say here is, if you perform chalitza to the Yevama and she gave birth, you're allowed to marry the krevim. That's the only way to say it. So memela, that's why I use this lashon also over here. It's not a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. We're mimicking that same lashon from the Reisha, which is impossible to say tzricha chalitza, lo tzricha chalitza. The only lashon you can use in the Reisha is mutter b'kreva sel. So memela, in the Seifa also, I use that same lashon even though it's not accurate. It's not a good lashon to say. It should say in the Seifa, eina tzricha chalitza or tzricha chalitza. That's what it should say. But it only mimics the ratio because in the ratio you can't say tzricha chalitza. Zog the Gemara. Another question. If the pregnancy is not viable, yikayim, you can leave her. She can be your wife. According to me, says Rabbi Yochanan, I said it's a good chalitza. And my yibum was a good yibum. So all I have to do is nothing. I just let it go. I was miyabim and she remains my wife. According to your Rish Lakish, that the yibum that I performed was 0. So yikayim is not a good lashon. What should it say? Yachzor v'yival v'yikayim. You can't just let it be. You have to perform yibum because the yibum that you did until now was nothing. So why does it say yikayim? My yikayim says Gemara. What?
You have to wait 3 months to know whether the kid is a mamzer.
The kid is. Why is the kid a mamzer? Nachama, what happened?
If the original yibum was not yibum, then it was achosich. I mean, it's just hach. And if
No, but she. No, she's for sure not Eishazar because she lost her pregnancy. Yeah.
But
You just want to know, Stam, like
if
the.
the bia was lo shmo bia, then it's not a yibum. If it's not a yibum, then it's a marriage of brother.
But you're talking. He's asking Rabbi Yochanan. Forget about it. You're talking about in Rish Lakish. I'm asking you. L'shitascha, not l'shitasi. L'shitascha. So, it's just a play on. It's not a play on words. It's a question on the wording in the Mishnah. The word yikayim means that what I did until now was great, and she's my wife. But it's not true. According to Rish Lakish, she's not a wife because I didn't do anything. How is she my wife? The yibum that I performed 2 months ago is nothing. So it should say Yachzav Yikayim. So Gemara, okay, he'll answer. My Yikayim, Yachzav Yikayim. You're right. That's exactly what it means. Yikayim doesn't mean just let it be. It means that you have to be miyabim. B'loi sagi, it's not enough without. Some people say the opposite. Rish Lakish used that as a raya against Rabbi Yochanan. If the pregnancy wasn't viable, you should be kayim. You could let her be your wife. According to me, that the chalitza in Yibum is nothing will be smooth bears lishma bia. That's why it says the word yikayim yachzav yikayim. What it means is you have to repeat the bia and be miyamer again to be kind to her. But according to you, Rabbi Yochanan, that she is your wife. Rotza yoitzi rotza yikayim boyle. If he wants, he could divorce her. If he wants, she can remain. Okay, it's just mimicking the lashon of Reisha, but the truth is, it should have said yaitzi also.
The same question on itself. It should say
Yikayim, according to Rish Lakish, that what? That didn't do anything. Yikayim or Yachloids. Why is he asking that from Yochanan? Who's this Talmud Chacham back there? The stumper. Psh. Very good. I hear. Only in Chicago they have stumpers. We have AIB, we have him. Let's think a second. Here, it's an easy shear today, so we have time to think. Hold on a second. No, time out. He's asking, according to Rish Lakish, it's nothing, right? He could keep her. Yeah, but I don't think the chalitza is not an option here. See, the guy wants to be married to her. So either he has to do a maisa to stay married, or he has to come out of the marriage. He's not talking about a guy that wants to be choilitz. I don't know. Okay. We'll look into it. Meisvei. You want to ask a question from the Brisa? Hakoynes is ivimto. Do we have time? What time did we start today? Okay. Hakoynes is ivimto. Evidim is muberes. A person went ahead and he married his Yevama and he finds out afterwards that she is pregnant. So, here, Stam, why not? These are the characters that we have for the Masechta, Reb Sidney. These are based on real people from the Shir. Well, not the women, the men. So we have two brothers. We call them the Baldwin brothers. The bald, and they're not makbid on their baldness. So, Ruvain and Yehuda over here. Ruvain is married to two women, Rachel and the 5-town woman. One is a Yerushalmi, one is a 5-towner, shopping woman. So when Ruvain goes sideways, goes bye-bye, so now Yehuda has to be miyabem, one of the two women. What does he do? He doesn't wait. He's impatient. He goes and he's miyabem, the 5-towner. Now, he finds out that the 5-towner is pregnant. So what does Rachel do? The Yerushalmi one, what does she do at this point? Could she go scot-free? Could she get married? Or the yibum that Yehuda performed with the 5-towner doesn't count. And if it doesn't count, she's still a Yevama. She's still a tzara. She requires something. Why am I muted? Who muted me? Okay, I don't know. That's you? Okay. So let's see. Rachel, the Yerushalmi one, shouldn't get married yet. Why? Shema Yevlad ben Kayama, which doesn't make any sense right now. Because perhaps the pregnancy of the 5-towner is a good pregnancy. And if it's a good pregnancy, so what? What happened? What are you saying?
If it's viable, then she doesn't need to leave.
Oh, if she's viable, she doesn't need anything.
Right. So then it's viable, then
Right.
he has a child.
Good question. Adarabba, says the Gemara. You're not making sense. If the 5-towner is pregnant and it's a viable baby, then they don't need chalitza at all. They don't need anything. Maybe she's not going to be pregnant. The pregnancy won't work. But if you say that, like you, Rabbi Yochanan, that when you're miyabim, the 5-towner, even illegally, is considered a good yibum. Why is Rachel waiting around? Either the 5-towner is going to have a viable baby, and it's great, and then they don't need yibum, or Yehuda performed yibum when he wasn't supposed to, but it's a good yibum. Retroactively, we go back and we say, hey, the pregnancy was not viable, and therefore the yibum that he did while she was pregnant is a good yibum, and therefore Rachel could go scot-free. She's in the shidduch market. What's the problem? Let's see. What happened there? Unmute. Here we go. Shaul Heller wants to go into the waiting room, so let him in. Okay. Says Abaya, and Rava doesn't like it at all. Rava says, what's the difference between chalitza and yibum? If one works, the other one works. One doesn't work, doesn't work. How could you differentiate? But Abaya says no. There's no machlokes when it comes to be that by Yehuda going against the law and be miyabim her while she's pregnant, it doesn't work. And therefore, if it doesn't work, there's no question. The whole question we had is, why can't Rachel the Tzara go get married? Well, she can't get married because nothing worked. There was no yibum here. The whole machlek is chalitza. Rabbi Yochanan saw chalitza is muber shmo chalitza. Biz muber lishmo bia. Rosh saw biz muber lishmo bia. Chalitza muber lishmo chalitza. In other words, the whole machlek that we had up until now is regarding chalitza. If a person performs chalitza while the woman is pregnant, and then we find that it's not a good pregnancy, whether or not it worked. But whether or not a bia worked, no shaila, it doesn't work. That makes no sense. If it's a good bia, it's a good yibum, then chalitza is a good chalitza. They go hand in hand. The kaimelon, top of Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. I take this beautiful page right over here. I don't know if you can see. This is my what is it called? A war scar? Battle scar. I was on the plane and a whole cup of water spilled on my Gemara, and it's the only thing that happened. This one daf. It's okay. I'm very, very makbid not to have any. My Gemaras are always perfect, no corners. This is my bad. Okay, fine. Happens. I wasn't using an R scroll. I wasn't using this. I was using this one right here. And I wrote on top over here that a whole cup of water spilled. So if anybody ever uses this, they'll know what happened. Fine. Says the Gemara. There's no, the whole machlok, says Rava. Manav shach, hibi is mubesh mubesh. Oh, we're taf, lam v'om now. The kol oil yibum oil chalitza. If a woman is available for yibum, she's available for chalitza. V'chol shein oil yibum made oil chalitza. Should we stop here? Let's stop over here so we have something to do tomorrow. Rabboisai. Have a wonderful day. Bring your friends tomorrow. Baruch Hashem. It's getting bigger and better.